As just reported in E&P, there's a new media company in the Philly area, the Fideri News Network. That's Fideri, a convergence of two Philly area media entities, Broad and Liberty and Access Network. Broad and Liberty is a nonprofit founded in 2019 with a mission of offering freedom-focused journalism, while the organization itself positions its reporting as independent and in service of public accountability. External characterizations, including from Google and some watchdog groups, generally classify it editorially leaning conservative and right of center. On the other side, Access Network, a collection of digital and broadcast assets. Those include lifestyle sites like phillydaily.com, onpattison.com, politicspa.com, and a suite of hyperlocal county sites. The network also includes broadcast radio through WBCB Sports. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. In this episode of E&P Reports, we talk with the CEO of Broad and Liberty, now Fideri, CEO Terry Tracy, to see why he believes he can grow a media empire with this ring of mostly suburban media assets and niche digital platforms. Also on the show will be Jim McDonald, CEO of Access Global Advisors, who will be the new chairman, focusing mostly on corporate development. When E&P first reported on this new venture, the press release did raise some more questions than it answered. What is the network? How is it structured? And is it a serious attempt to build something meaningful in today's media landscape, or just another label slapped on some existing operations? Today, we're going to do a deep dive with those questions to the people behind it. Stick around.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity and News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
All right, let's kick it off with the vision and mission, guys. What gap in the current media landscape are you trying to fill with Broad and Liberty and now the Fideri News Network? I'm going to throw that one at Terry, if I may.
We are fundamentally what we're trying to do here, what we believe we're going to do here is solve for the crisis in local news. It's no secret to anybody listening to this podcast that the big metros are struggling. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution just announced this past week that they're going to cease all print operations. I think that in what I read, the term they were using was cold turkey, which is probably has been a long time coming, but is a shock still to those that are reading that paper. We've watched the struggles, the financial struggles of the Philadelphia Inquirer in our home market. It's no secret that the county dailies continue to struggle, but at the same time, people are consuming a massive amount of information. And I think that what we've seen happen is as quantity increases, the consumption quantity increases, the quality at the local level decreases. And so we're building a model that we believe will give people full complement of information and access that they're looking for, but in a model that addresses some of the more fundamental challenges that the traditional companies are having. And we're really not looking to play in the national space. It's crowded. There's some innovation happening. There's some great things happening in many ways. But we really believe that the opportunity, both in terms of the market opportunity and the editorial impact upside, really exists at the state and local level. And quite frankly, there's no better place to start than a place like Pennsylvania that has been at the ground zero of much of the sort of civic, political, and policy discussions that have been going on in the country over the last couple of years. And we believe that will continue into 2026 and beyond. And so we're at the center of gravity here. But solving for the business model challenges, and quite frankly, and almost equally as important, the civic challenges that media faces at the local level is really critically important for the good of our democracy and our ability to self-govern.
All right, so now we've been at 30,000 feet. Let me bring it back to the runway here with Jim. Jim, we reported on your launch at EMP, and we got a lot of buzz about this. Your press release that you sent me said that you are aiming to knit together independent local outlets into a broader platform with national reach. Jim, can you describe the nuts and bolts of this? How do you envision this? What's this all going to look like day to day?
Sure. And I wouldn't mistake national reach for nationwide coverage. We will put together something that is competitive from an audience perspective on a national level, but we will cluster our efforts first around Philadelphia and New Jersey, and then where it makes sense, not to give away our whole plan, where it makes sense and where we know that the business model will still be relevant as we expand. We'll do that probably very similarly to what we did or here at what Access did before we merged with Broad and Liberty, which is surround a city by buying independent journalism websites, independent news websites, and then launching adjacently to get full market coverage. It's kind of like a real estate thing, really, if you look at it. So that's, I believe, the way to compete in the market. But more than that, the best way to compete in the market is to give consumers what they need. And that's the way we're looking at it. We want to meet consumers where they are, how they are digesting and getting their news. We're not going to tell them, oh, we're going to have to force a newspaper on you, or you've got to come to our website and there's a paywall, so we're going to make it hard for you to get to that. We are going to make it accessible. We are going to make it scaled, and we're going to make it good. The content will be good and relevant to the consumers.
Terry, the outlets you are now incorporating in Fideri have been described, at least online, as leaning towards the right. But how do you balance that with ideological identity and credibility and trust? First of all, is that an accurate statement?
Well, I don't know. It's not entirely accurate in the sense that it's really a portfolio of sites that do different things for different reasons for different consumers that in the aggregate offer a wide range of almost a complete range of news products. And so I think where that characterization comes from is from the Broad and Liberty brand being sort of the parent brand. And listen, I founded Broad and Liberty in 2019 because I believed that conservatives, intellectual conservatives, had seeded the ground in big urban, in a metropolitan areas to, not just classical liberals, but progressives. And that was to the detriment of the people that live there. Much like Jim was talking about competition in media, I think we need competition in politics. We need competition in policy debates, and folks who had a center-right sensibility. And let's be clear, that's the term broad and liberty is meant as a double entendre in the sense that Big Tent, right? Any folks that had sort of a contrarian perspective from sort of the progressive dominance of big city politics in recent years too often either had just completely walked away from the conversation, were not competitive electorally, were at some points canceled or censored. And so there needed to be a platform for folks who wanted to engage in these issues to come and to write and to argue and to be heard. And that's the service that Broad and Liberty provided before it got into investigative journalism full time from an editorial perspective. I think that our editorial sensibilities are pro-taxpayer, pro-growth, pro-individual responsibility, are rooted in the ideals that the American idea is that there's opportunity for all, but that's not necessarily what dominates each of these sites, and so Those voices will continue to have a platform. That brand will continue to be important. But we really view this as a portfolio company where folks of all stripes are able to come and get great news. And at the end of the day, the news is the news.
That's
And
what I was going to ask.
there are very few people covering what's going on, Mike, at school board meetings,
There
in
you
city
go.
hall, in county commissioner's office. It's just not happening anymore.
I have
And
no,
that's what our reporters are tasked to do.
I am fine with an editorial slant
Editorial.
in a
Yeah.
direction. But again, EMP's position as far as the news media ecosystem is, we are the only industry that's in the Constitution. We have that final check on power. We are mandated in order to be that final voice. You see yourself providing enterprise journalism in the towns you cover.
We are the accountability framework for our system of government, right? For our ability to self-govern relies upon an informed citizenry. And let me give you a very specific example at the county level. So the Biden administration passed the ARPA Act, right, which was a COVID relief act that provided state and local governments with a massive infusion of capital in order to recover from the economic fallout associated with the pandemic. Some people think it was a great bill. Some people think it was a terrible bill. That's besides the point. What is not debatable is that county governments, state governments, school boards were given tens of millions of dollars with really a very broad parameter in which they could allocate those dollars to help their respective constituencies recover from the pandemic. And so the question becomes, well, how was that money spent? Was it spent efficiently, effectively, equitably? What we have found in many county courthouses in Pennsylvania, a lot of that money went to create new bureaucracy. So it was one-time revenue sources dedicated to long-term fixed costs. And when that money is gone, which it is has to be spent, statutorily has to be spent by the end of next year, the taxpayer is on the hook. Who's paying for that? Does the property tax base, the local property tax, can it support it? And so these are the kinds of things that we're looking into that, quite frankly, no one else is looking into, that gets into Jim's point, which is the business model, the success or failure of a business model in any industry, and in particular this industry, is a function of the quality of the product.
So let's get into sustainability. Let me swing it back to Jim now. Let's talk about that magic word, sustainability, that has been mentioned at every conference on every stage. What makes you different, Jim? What is your advertising philosophy? Are you looking for philanthropy? Are you going to push towards subscribers to pay? Is there a mix coming? How are you going to build a sustainable news model and keep those 40 people plus paying their bills and feeding their families, sir?
Well, I believe we've already proven that out, and that's what brought this together. In fact, it's been vetted by a PE advisory company that looked at this deal and came back to us and said, wow, this is a good business model. This is a good investment opportunity. So that's a nice validation from a third party. But that being said, we still, we are not just selling advertising. There are 10 different revenue sources. Obviously, because I look at this competitively, I'm not interested in giving our strategy out to our competitors over the podcast today. I don't look at it at the industry the way many others currently are looking at it as a collaborative ecosystem. Not at all. Like I want to win. Maybe that's just my personality. And that doesn't mean to the demise of others. I just want to do better than the others. So I would say we have a very, it's important that you have a diverse income streams, right? Diverse revenue streams for the business. We've developed a model with what I call a revenue wheel that does just that. We also have very tight metrics on how we manage our expenses, how we allocate resources and what they should mean. These are all metriced out. I've been the fortunate seat that I have talked to hundreds of CEOs and publishers over the last 7 years around the world, from Germany to the UK to Israel to Qatar to Singapore, all over the United States in my M&A practice. And I learned a lot from that. And a lot of the gleanings are, what I think are the amalgam of the best opportunities in the business to put a good business together.
Well, Mike, can I tell you a quick funny story?
Yeah.
My background is in two things: public policy, but most of my professional career was in consumer goods. I had senior management positions at companies like Gap and Ralph Lauren, J. Crew, and I watched those companies struggle mightily in recent years. And I ultimately left the industry. But one of the things I used to joke about with my colleagues there was, you know, nobody's walking around naked, thank God. So why can't we make any money selling t-shirts and sweaters? And there were some fundamental sort of sacred cows within the business models of those companies and the way they thought about delivering the product to the consumer that I believe ultimately were flawed. And I think a lot of those challenges are translatable to the media industry as well. And if we're willing to challenge those sacred cows, think divergently, and stay with our lane, which really is state and local, hyper local, I think it's going to offer us an opportunity to really deliver a terrific product, deliver on the model, and hopefully help to write the next chapter of this particular sector, not just because we want the company to do well, but because there really is a civic imperative for us to do well. It's in addition to that.
Terry Tracy, CEO of Broad and Liberty, along with Jim McDonald, the COO. Broad and Liberty, the company that has launched the Fideri News Network in Philadelphia and soon possibly beyond. Stay tuned to E&P for more on this. Thank you, gentlemen, for your valuable time.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mike.